David, wake up.
Why?
Because you've already missed too many days of school.
Hey, Brian, kick me.
Going to school, Dave.
Our question was, how many absences have you had this year? And our sampling method was convenience sampling. The sample was drawn from the closest population, and we posted a poll on Instagram to our followers. As you can see, people like Ali said 13. And then here's our data. For example, we had 17 people miss 0 days, and we had like 2 people miss 6 days, or 2 people miss 22 days. And for our graphical representation, we made a pie chart that shows the percentage of people in each interval, and that's our pie chart.
62% of our sample had 0 to 8 absences. 20% of our sample had 9 to 16 absences. 11% of our sample had 17 to 24 absences. 4% of our sample had 25 to 32 absences. And 3% of our sample had 33 to 40 absences. For our measure of central tendency, our mean was 8.05, and to find that, we add all the numbers and divide by the total number of them. And then for our median was 4, and that is the middle number. For the mode, it was 0 because it occurs the most often. And for the mid-range, we got 23.5 because we take the average of the maximum and the minimum and divide by 2. And for the measures of spread, our range was 47 because we took the max minus the min. And the IQR is the Q3 minus Q1, which is 12.5 minus 1, and that is 11.5.
The next thing you have to find is your variance and standard deviation. So the variance is the average squared deviation from the mean of a set of data, and it's used to then find your standard deviation. To find your variance, you first have to find your mean, which we previously did and got 8.05. Then you subtract the mean from each of these values that we were given. So we would do it from 0, 1, 2, and so on, and that result that you get after subtracting it from those numbers is called your deviation. Then you're going to square each deviation, so you square each of these numbers and then add them up. When adding them up, you have to remember to multiply it by however many times there was. So for whatever we got for when we subtracted 8.05 from 0 and got negative 8.05, we have to then multiply that by 17 because 17 people missed that. Then we add all of them up, and after adding them, you're going to divide by the number of terms. So in this case, 100. So here's the formula. You have your data point, you're subtracting the mean from it, then you square that and divide all of that by the number of terms. After taking all those steps, we got our variance to be 90.28. To find your variation, all you have to do is take the square root of your variance. So our variance was 90.28. So once taking the square root of that, you got 9.5, and this is the formula that shows that.
Lastly, we had our distribution, and this is the symmetrical bell-shaped curve that represents the distribution of values, frequencies, or probabilities of a set of data. This curve slopes downward from a point in the middle corresponding to the mean value or maximum probability. So our mean value was 8.05, and we had to add our standard deviation to that to get our next point, and then we had to subtract it to get the point on the other side, and we had to get up to 3 standard deviations away on each side of the bell curve. We have negative data because our data is not normally distributed. It isn't represented as a normal distribution because the mean, median, and mode are not all the same in our data set. And our bell curve represents the empirical rule, which is 68% falls within 1 standard deviation of the mean in the middle section, and 95% of it falls within 2 standard deviations of the mean, and 99.7% of it falls within 3 standard deviations of the mean. And lastly, these are 10 examples of vocab words we used in our video.